All right, what's up, guys? Happy Saturday. Just gonna adjust my camera here. There we go. Welcome to everyone who's watching the replay of this. And for those that are just joining, I'm gonna let a couple people come into the live. But yeah, in this video, we're gonna be talking about the quantum financial reset versus the great reset. So these are both kind of buzzwords that we hear a lot in the, various communities out there, whether it's disclosure or it's financial stuff or it's just, what's going on with the World Economic Forum and everything. But the Great Reset is obviously a big buzzword. It was put out there by Klaus Schwab and the whole World Economic Forum, and it's something that is way on the forefront of the collective consciousness mind at the moment. And that's really interesting because a couple of years ago, nobody really knew who Klaus Schwab was. Very few people even knew about the World Economic Forum. The Great Reset was not a term that people were talking about. It's only been something that's really come about in the past, like a couple years, really, since the pandemic hit. And so what I want to do in this video is kind of break down my particular opinions and understandings and conclusions on the differences between this Great Reset and then what I interpret as the equal and opposite to the Great Reset, which I'm loosely calling the quantum financial system. Now, I realize that quantum financial system, or QFS, is also another buzz phrase that doesn't really have a ton of clarity within itself. So I'm going to kind of break down what my interpretation of the QFS is, but just a disclaimer, it might not be the same thing that other people out there are talking about when they say QFS. I know some people are triggered by the words QFS. I've seen some, people out there that just the word or the phrase or the acronym QFS itself sets them off. And I think that's mainly because of who maybe it's been pushed by, particular figures out there that I don't really pay attention to. So if you get a reaction out of both, QFS and Great Reset, they're good things to kind of meditate on and be the observer within your mind and go, okay, why am I reacting to this as a term within itself? But what I've seen is that it's the people talking about it in a certain context. So I just want to say that I'm not necessarily using QFS, quantum financial system, in the same context that some of these influencers out there might be using it. I'm not going to say any particular names of influencers. Not that it really matters, but I just don't really pay attention to them. The people that I know are talking about QFS and things like that. So I just want to make that disclaimer. This is going to be my own interpretation, my own definitions, and perhaps you and other people are using different connotations and definitions when talking about the QFS. Welcome to the people that are joining the live right now. What's up, Joel? What's up, Ascension Diaries? What's up, Pleroma? So for those joining in this, as the title says, we're going to be breaking down my conclusions, my understandings about how I see the differences between the quantum financial system and the Great Reset. So obviously the Great Reset is, we were just saying, associated with Klaus Schwab. It's associated with this idea of you'll own nothing in 2030 and you'll be happy about it, right? Like, these are all things that are pretty commonly discussed and understood by especially people in this community right now, and things that people are very rightfully wary about, and we should be very discerning and aware of what's going on in this whole sphere. But I think that some people only see that Great Reset option, and especially people that have been so let's say involved and activated in the disclosure communities and things like that, are very, I would say, just privy to kind of that information in specific and the Great Reset, but might not realize what is occurring behind the scenes in terms of this war on the other front. And I truly believe that in this world, we are exposed to balance of light and dark on both sides. Oh wow, this beautiful monarch butterfly, big yellow one, just flew right by my face. real quick before we get into this, if you guys wouldn't mind sharing this in a Telegram group or on Facebook or whatever social media you're using, maybe Twitter, and hitting that like and subscribe button. If you're not already subscribed, it's going to help out a lot. I'm going to try to get this channel up to 10,000 followers in the next year is my goal, maybe sooner. So help me out with that. We're going to try to expand this channel again. We'll see what happens with all the shadow banning and strikes and all that, because I do have had 2 out of 3 strikes on this channel for quite some time. They like to go back and pick out videos of mine from years ago, from like 5-6 years ago, and put strikes on those when particular things come up. But recently it's been a little more in the clear, so I feel like in general the tech world has been more opened up, and there might be reasons for that behind the scenes. But going back to the Great Reset and everything, so a lot of people, just to kind of clarify again, a lot of people only see this Great Reset timeline, and they don't understand that there is stuff going on behind the scenes that's the equal and opposite to the Great Reset, and it's what I loosely call the quantum financial system. And I would say, just to kind of lay out the main differences between the Great Reset and the quantum financial system, the Great Reset is obviously the service to self, the NWO, as you might say, that version of the reset. Whereas the quantum financial reset has a lot of parallels to the way that things might look on the surface, because in general, what we're seeing in more esoteric spiritual terms is we're seeing the evolution from 3rd density to 4th density civilization on Earth. And those are terms that originally come from the Law of One channelings, if you haven't heard that before, and basically describes how we are expanding as a consciousness of a species into this new state of being. And this is also the truth behind, you know, what they're trying to distort into the transhumanism agenda, which would be the Great Reset timeline, right? The transhumanism agenda, they're trying to, I don't have to explain it, but they're trying to distort and pervert the natural ascension of the consciousness of mankind on Earth. And this ascension is a very natural one. It's a quantum leap in evolution that all beings, all life goes through at various levels. It correlates to the chakras, and the chakras on the macrocosm correlate to the same levels of dimensional shifts when it comes to color. So we have 7 chakras in the body, 7 primary chakras, many sub-chakras, and these all correspond to a color, a frequency of light, from red, orange, yellow, blue, indigo, violet. And then, of course, infinite amount of sub-layers between each one. But these boundary levels, as you can call them, these primary colors, which I wear in normal terms, they're not all primary colors, but they're primary energy levels. And this correlates on the macrocosm, in my understandings, to the dimensional densities, as we would term them, and where each density is a different layer of consciousness, starting from the 1st density, which is like rocks, basically the elements earth, wind, fire, water, moving up to the plants and animals in the 2nd density, the orange ray, everything from bacteria to plants and animals. And then we are the yellow ray, the 3rd density, moving into the 4th density green ray of the heart. What's up, Crypto Grabs? Good to see you, man. What's up, Rob? No, Rob, I did not see that coin that you're talking about. That's interesting. You have to tell me more about that. So the reason I'm talking about the dimensions and everything is because we're moving from the yellow ray, 3rd density, to the heart ray, 4th density. And in doing so, there are a lot of patterns in the world that emerge on both the service to self and the service to others timelines. So again, the service to self timeline, the negative ascension timeline would be this push for the Great Reset, for the transhumanism agenda, for the NWO. And on the flip side, the positive service to others ascension is the organic consciousness expansion. It is the natural evolution of the awareness of the mind, body, and spirit in a whole new level of balance that allows us to become a new version of being human. And I think that both of these timelines, the loosely we'll say the positive and negative ascension timelines, have a similarity to them that to the untrained eye one could be perceived as the other and vice versa. And what I mean by that is, let's just take the example of kind of a world government or a world economy. Instantly when we hear that, a lot of us are, including myself, are drawn to the kind of Great Reset timeline. When we hear world government, when we hear world economy, that's what kind of a lot of our brains are normally accustomed to thinking about in terms of like the NWO. But on the flip side of things, this is, I think, the same path in a way that the positive ascension would grow to become. And what I mean by that is there is a similarity in the way that the collective consciousness orients itself, whether it is that positive or negative polarity. And it does have to do with just the core understandings of how energy dispersion and patterns work within the universe. And as that awareness grows, the evolution of both the positive and the negative path work towards the one infinite creation, the one light, the God source consciousness. And it's like in the law of one, they say the law of one blinks neither at the light or the dark. They are equal in the eyes of the one infinite creator because they both become the same at a certain point, which in my understanding would be around what we would call the sixth density, the sixth to seventh density, near the end of this octave of the chakras moving up within this realm of creation. And I know I'm going deeper esoteric here, but I think a lot of you already kind of follow and study this kind of stuff. So I really believe that this is what we're seeing now on the planet, and we're going to see this move towards the higher octave, the higher consciousness energetics of a collective consciousness. And these patterns will play out on both the positive and the negative timeline. So this world government idea, for example, we typically associate it with being a negative thing. But on the positive, if we are going to be truly a collective consciousness where nothing is hidden anymore, everything is transparent, we all know each other's thoughts and intentions in one way or another, this is the direction we're moving towards, that would also see the development of probably something akin to a one world government, because we would no longer have this issue of polarity within the civilization, and for instance seeing states and countries differ from each other. However, right now that is still an important, I think, aspect of our civilization, because we have not yet fully polarized away positive and negative. We still have, for lack of better words, evil and good beings living in the same neighborhoods, working in the same companies, like, you know, shaking hands at dinner kind of thing. And eventually those two polarities will move further away, which is kind of something we talked about on the last live stream, like this concept of maybe we'll see a new country or a new state emerged where the polarities of good and evil will be so split that they have to actually go to like different countries. And it's sort of what we see now, but I would say for right now, at least, most countries have both of these energies going on. But especially with what we're seeing with the BRICS nations, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, and we're going to get into this more in terms of the financial stuff in a moment, but we're seeing these BRICS nations essentially, what I'm seeing is that they're becoming more of the positive polarity, and they're purging themselves of the negative forces within each of their respective countries. I believe that there's a lot going on behind the scenes with this stuff, but to kind of bring it back, I think that the main point I was trying to make is that these patterns of things that we might interpret just as the NWO timeline, like a one world government or a global currency or global reserve currency, these kind of things, I think these are inevitable on both timelines, the positive and the negative, because they are still reflective of us coming back to the universal consciousness. So on the negative timeline, that one world government, that one world, reserve currency type thing would be used for control, right? So that one world government would be controlled by a few individuals or a few families at the top. This is how the Law of One describes how the Orion group works. The Orion group being a group that is majorly based in the Orion constellation that goes around and essentially takes over planets using conquest and fear and enslavement. And that's what we would see play out here. It would be very similar to what I think we see in a lot of the worlds in the Orion constellation and the Orion creation timelines. And so we would see that top down. We would see a furthering of, you know, the pyramid that we already see in our civilization, but it would be more transparent. It would be so overt that people would be tricked into believing that's what they want, because that's what's necessary in that form of the energy exchange, is that the slaves be consenting to it on an even more transparent level. And then on the flip side, on the service to other positive ascension timeline, I think that inevitably we do still see some form of a one world government at some point, but maybe not as immediate. I think maybe we start with more of this Ubuntu style, where we have smaller groups that are more tribe-like, and they are essentially taking care of themselves, and it's more, you know, kind of states' rights kind of ideas. But eventually, to form a collective consciousness, these have to merge and these have to come together to create a larger being, essentially. And so I think this is part of what we're seeing play out on the quantum financial system side of this kind of conscious evolution. And I don't think that we're going to be moving into having a one world government for that side, but I do think that, for instance, these BRICS nations will be a form of that in the positive. So yeah, I'm going to take a break from that real quick and check the comments. Earthworth says, and that's the difference, is we have no direct experience of total self-governance. Yes, exactly. We don't have direct experience of that yet. So that's a good segue, the self-governance. So in this version of the Ascension timeline, that is the positive version that we're loosely kind of attributing with the quantum financial system, this new economic system, I don't believe it will be a one world currency like the negative ascension timeline, the Great Reset timeline, is seeking to have. I think that timeline, the Great Reset timeline, is in favorable, you know, bringing it back to crypto, I think that's in favorable of Bitcoin and Ethereum. These are the two main cryptocurrencies that we see that the banks are invested in. Like the majority of banks have investments in these two cryptos over any other. We're seeing more and more with something called ETHgate, Ethereum Gate, that the US government and the US banks, including JP Morgan, have been investing and giving Ethereum, the Ethereum Foundation, a free pass while going after Ripple and XRP for the things that they're actually guilty of themselves. So this is a common thing within the service to self, dark agenda, is that you project exactly what you're guilty of onto your enemy, which is exactly what we're seeing happen with the US corporate government and the SEC, that they are going after Ripple and XRP for the things that their, big bank, cartel bank backed Ethereum and Bitcoin are actually guilty of themselves. And with Bitcoin, it's funny because they can kind of pretend that they don't know who created Bitcoin. They can pretend that it's a more decentralized thing than it actually is because they know who created it. And we found this out recently when the DHS announced on stage at some conference recently that they knew who the 4 creators behind Bitcoin were, the 4 Satoshis, not just the one, and that they actually sent an agent out to go and interview them many years ago. So they've been aware of this, and there's a reason why all these big Wall Street institutions like BlackRock have invested in Bitcoin in particular. They wouldn't invest in it if they didn't know who actually created it, right? If there was a chance it could be China or it could be some other enemy nation, they wouldn't take the risk into investing into this anonymous thing. They know full well who created Bitcoin. And I'm not saying I do, I don't. but they do, and they have trust in their investments because of that. So these are the main reasons why, just to kind of tangent to this for a second, that when people tell me that they don't get a good vibe about crypto, I tell them, well, what are the cryptos you're aware of, and what are you tapping into? What is the energy? And for most people, they're tapping into Bitcoin and Ethereum, and that's exactly what I interpreted as the entire cryptocurrency space as well when I first got in, because those are the ones that they're pushing in our faces all the time. And I didn't get a good vibe about those either. I obviously still don't. So what I challenge people to do who are, say opposed to cryptocurrency in general or XRP because of the vibes they get from Bitcoin and Ethereum, is I say, go tap into these other projects. Go look at the creators of, say, Ripple and XRP, Brad Garlinghouse, David Schwartz, for instance. Watch their interviews, tap into their consciousness, read their body languages, and tell me if you get a different vibe than, say, Vitalik Buterin, who created Ethereum. And everybody that I've talked to, everyone in my coaching program, we've talked about this, like everyone agrees that there is a let's just say, MK Ultra vibe behind Vitalik Buterin and behind the Ethereum Foundation and that whole side of things, Bitcoin as well. But when people tap into XRP energetically, they get a completely different energetic signature and response from it. And this is what I love studying in people too, because I want to genuinely know, especially in this empathic, spiritual kind of community where people are so in tune with energies. I like to see if it lines up with all the other data that I'm getting and I'm seeing and that I'm feeling in myself. And without a doubt, like every single person, I literally can't think of a single person that I've had like a genuine conversation with about this that hasn't agreed that XRP and the people behind XRP have a significantly different and more positive vibe than the people behind Ethereum, Bitcoin, and that whole institution. And so this, bringing it back full circle, ties directly in with the Great Reset versus the quantum financial reset. And as Earthworth was saying in the chat, the decentralized nature and the decentralized social governance is something that we are not used to because we haven't seen it yet. And on the Great Reset timeline, they want the one or two projects like Bitcoin and Ethereum to do everything. They want you paying these extremely ridiculous fees that go back to the miners who are primarily run and owned by communist China. They own the majority of the infrastructure behind Bitcoin and Ethereum. So when we're paying all these fees on those networks, the people that are using that, it's going back to China essentially right now. And so, they want these 1 to 2 coins to do everything, just like Facebook wanted their Libra coin to do everything. And I talked about this on my last live, but Ripple and Facebook's Libra, XRP and Libra were where they were enemies. They were direct competition for each other. So this kind of shows you as well where the energies lie of light and dark. And so the opposite to having a centralized coin like Bitcoin and Ethereum that are centralized by China in terms of their consensus mechanism and being able to have what they call a 51% attack on the network, which is basically where a majority of the infrastructure is owned by a particular group and they can actually change the code to a degree if they wanted. The equal and opposite to that is a completely decentralized infrastructure for the people that also has a degree of social governance that people can vote on it. And this is what we're seeing with the XRP and related ecosystems that are being built on and around XRP. And so, for instance, we're going to be able to, whether through XRP directly or through the ecosystems that are being built with it, we will be able to use blockchain for a whole number of different applications that will make the old world systems more transparent, more for the people, and more run by the people. And the most direct version of that is, of course, blockchain elections. So elections that are run on the blockchain where it's completely transparent, it's completely, acknowledgeable by the people to be able to see what's happening. We have direct proof that can't be tampered with because this is the nature of blockchain. It can't be tampered with. We have direct proof of, say, the votes in our elections or whatever. And it won't be just the government that this will apply to. It'll be corporations. We will have decentralized corporations in one form or another, where the investors in these corporations will have direct governance over them and direct control of them. So instead of having, say, a stock where you have this, made up digital thing that you don't actually own, right? Like, where do you keep a stock? You can't keep a stock in your private wallet. You have to keep it with the investment firm or the broker, right? Like, you don't actually physically own the stock. It's like ones and zeros in a computer, really. But with the blockchain, you have actual ownership over the token. No one can take that from you. No one can say, hey, we don't like what you're doing. We're going to freeze this. Where with stocks, that can all be manipulated and messed with. And it's a completely, closed loop, centralized kind of system. When we take these companies and we put them on the blockchain and we introduce these social governance to them, the people who are invested in these companies will have direct influence over voting on the direction of the company. So this is going to completely change the game in terms of these mega corporations that have these board of directors that make all the decisions. Instead of it being up to just the board of directors and the chair and the CEO and all that, it'll literally be up to the users of the network. And this is where with like XRP, for instance, even though Ripple, the company, has a majority of about a little less than half of the supply of XRP, they only have less than 5% of the validating power on the blockchain. That means in terms of the consensus mechanism that creates the validation of each transaction, they have less than 5%, which means that if they wanted the XRP ledger to go in a certain direction, but the majority of users using it did not, it's not up to them. It's up to the other 95% of the users of the network to decide what things are approved and what things are not. And this is making it very basic and kind of watered down, but this is essentially how it works. And so I see XRP as being the main mechanism and the main tool that this new quantum financial system that will challenge the Great Reset is using. The quantum financial system will be focused around XRP, but rather than this Great Reset, Bitcoin and Ethereum to do everything timeline, XRP won't be doing everything. It'll just be serving its particular purpose of being a liquidity bridge asset. So its particular mission is to be the bridger of all other assets in the global economy. And there's a really important key to this, which is that whereas Bitcoin seeks to replace gold and replace cash and replace precious metals, that's not what we want. We want digital currencies that will enhance gold, that will enhance precious metals, enhance cash if we choose that we still want cash, and enhance national currencies. And what I mean by this is Bitcoin literally, the people that hold Bitcoin, the majority of them literally don't want gold anymore. I don't know why, but they literally will be like, Bitcoin is the new gold. You don't need gold. Gold is so, last century, last millennia. And I think that's pretty stupid, to be honest. The real value, of course, is going to be in the tangible things, and at least to the things that have service to the community when we come back to them. The resources, the natural resources, the precious metals, the commodities, even housing, cars, like everything should come back to empowering the physical things. And there's a beautiful hawk that just flew by me, so that's a good confirmation. And so XRP does exactly that. It empowers these other systems that we want to keep around. It doesn't try to replace gold. It empowers gold. And the example that I give people is using XRP, we will be able to quantumly send gold across the country, or silver or anything else. We'll be able to send gold and precious metals across the world in seconds. And the reason being is that when this new system, this new plumbing, this new infrastructure is fully built and turned on, which is not yet. It's basically like the plumbing is being built for this infrastructure, but we haven't turned the water on, which is why we haven't seen XRP do crazy prices or anything like that, because the water's not on, but the plumbing is being built. When that flip of the switch happens and that water turns on, there will be a big difference in the way that we see things operate. And so one of those things would be, I believe that banks if they stick around, will be going back to being what they were supposed to be, which is actual reserves of physical currencies, not reserves of digital currencies that can be inflated by printing more digital US dollars, right? This is the other reason we need blockchain, is because there's limited supply caps on these digital assets like XRP. We can't just print more like you can with Bitcoin and Ethereum, where there's more being made. We want to have deflation, if anything, and XRP is deflationary. So when, say, these banks are using this new XRP and RippleNet system, they will be acting as true reserves. And so you will be able to go to your, say if you're in the United States, you'll be able to go to your local Bank of America, bring them a physical bar of gold that you want to send to your friend on the other side of the world, give them that bar of gold, be like, hey, I want to send this to my friend Joe in China, and or like the UK or Brazil or wherever, right? And the Bank of America will take your bar of gold, they'll put it in their physical reserves, they'll transfer it to digital gold, and then they'll transfer that digital gold to XRP in like a couple seconds. Like this will be instant. And then they send the XRP as the bridge asset to your friend's bank on the other side of the world, whether it's Brazil, Russia, China, South Africa, Saudi Arabia, like wherever. When that bank receives the XRP, they will instantly liquidate it into digital gold and then into physical gold. And they will literally take their physical gold out of their reserves and give your friend a physical bar of gold. And within, a minute or less, because the transaction time is only 2 to 4 seconds, so it really just depends how long it takes them to go get the bar of gold out of the safe and everything. But presumably within a few minutes at the most, you can literally send gold quantumly across the planet. And this is what I call the quantum financial system, because we're not trying to replace gold in all this by saying, hey, here's this intangible currency that you just need to trust, and you don't need to worry about cash and gold and all this stuff anymore. Just use Bitcoin, just use Ethereum. That's not the timeline we want. We want the one where we can continue to use precious metals and everything, but we don't have to carry them around. And so, like, for instance, I've got this really cool silver, what is it, 3 troy ounces of silver. Pretty cool Egyptian mold casting here. And so, what I tell the people that are like super pro precious metals but anti-digital asset altogether is, when's the last time you could go and spend this at the grocery store, right? I think this is valuable for sure. You could go and sell this for cash and then spend that at the grocery store, but I can't take this to Whole Foods or to wherever and actually spend it. No one's going to take this. However, right now I can actually spend my XRP at the grocery store, and I do. I spend my XRP on rent, I spend it at the grocery store, I spend it for gas, and that's because they have MasterCards and Visa cards that you can spend your crypto directly. So it's already more convenient. But also, who wants to carry around a bunch of heavy precious metals, especially if you're planning on becoming a wealthier person? Who wants to carry around everything that they plan on spending in a day? It's very impractical. And so we want digital assets that directly empower these and allow for the use of these in a more practical and liquid way. And to me, that's like the backbone difference of the Great Reset versus the quantum financial reset. The Great Reset, you have 1 or 2 cryptos that replace all the precious metals, they replace all the cash, they replace all the national currencies, and this is all everyone uses for anything, but it's all digital. The quantum financial reset, we have all the things that we still find valuable. We have precious metals, gold, silver, natural resources, commodities, and we use digital assets to represent them so that we can more easily access them and make them more liquid for transferring around the planet into other people. And yeah, to me, that's the gist of it. And then there's all these other intricacies that play into that as well. And yeah, like the social governance aspect, the fact that we're going to be able to control the direction of these, like versus Bitcoin and Ethereum. You wouldn't be able to do that unless you're, owning the majority of the infrastructure. we want to be able to be representative like a government in these systems. And that's what XRP and the ecosystems allow. And then as well, to have an ecosystem of these digital currencies, not just one or two that do everything, but to have an ecosystem of ones with particular positions and jobs that do particular niche things. So XRP being the settlement bridge asset. Another project will be the more like retail kind of division of that. Another one might be the more social governance version. Another one might be for voting. Another one might be for representation in companies and things like that. And so there will be, I believe there will only still be a few, but there will be many more in this ecosystem compared to what the Great Reset wants, which is just one or two to do everything. This one's slightly more of a, you could say, I guess, capitalistic nature, where may the best one win, but we don't have one as a monopoly. We make sure that we have each do its specific use case, but we have an ecosystem of them. So yeah, if you guys want to learn more about this stuff and you're ready to take your particular financial journey to the next level in this whole space, I do coaching on this. I have a full coaching program that teaches you step by step how to do all of these things, how to purchase and sell your crypto, how to set up your private wallets, which is really what makes it your sovereign money where no one can touch it, right? That's like the main thing for me with this digital asset space right now, is the sovereignty, because I've seen so many people, especially in these online communities, get their PayPal shut down. Canadians were getting their bank account shut down, the trucker rallies, right? Like Ukraine, Russia, people were getting their account shut down. And at the end of the day, if you have money in the bank, like, they own that. And all it takes is for them to not agree with you, to go, we don't want to give you your money. When you go to try to withdraw it, they can literally legally tell you, no, you can't withdraw your money. And that's not cool. We don't want to support those kind of systems. So I think if you're keeping the majority of your savings and your money in the bank, you're still directly supporting that system. And that's where I feel like I'm trying to take this active stance of, I'm going to put my money where it's the most sovereign, where I have the most empowerment over it, and where I know nobody can mess with it. It comes down to me, my responsibility. Granted, there's no third party you can call if you mess up, besides, like, you know, me if I'm your coach. But like, you know, if you're not wise to what you're doing and you say send a wrong transaction, there's no like bank you can call up and be like, hey, revert my transaction. But that's the trade-off we have to have. We have to have more sovereignty and responsibility over our finances and our energy to come into that place of embodiment and sovereignty. We can't outsource this to a third-party bank or whatever. I mean, you can, but you're supporting that system in the end. So the sovereignty is like the main thing for me, the number one thing. And then there's the passive income that is so much more than anything you would get in the bank. Right now, I think in the bank, it's like -1% because of interest rates and inflation and everything that you get by keeping your money in the bank. You're actually losing every year. So, you know, some of the passive income strategies we do are 30% back a year or more. Other ones are based around the dollar, so you can keep your money in a US dollar stablecoin still, but you don't have to be subject to keeping it in the bank. So you have full ownership over the stablecoin. It's backed by real money, and it gives you like 9%, for instance, on this one that we use, 9% back a year, which is way more than you'd get in the bank. And you don't have to worry about the investing in a volatile asset kind of thing. So the passive income and the sovereignty, I think, are some of the most important things when it comes to crypto right now, especially with what people are dealing with in the world. And my coaching program fully lays out how to do all this stuff. We've got step-by-step tutorials. It's intended for people who are super brand new to this stuff. You don't have to know anything. If you're already experienced a little bit and you've done buying and selling and stuff, then that's all good too. We can pick up with where you're at. But it's intended for people especially that have no experience whatsoever. And my mission here is to bring this to people before it becomes the mainstream, because it's happening every day. It's happening every minute, every second on the back end. And if you're not studying this every day, you're not seeing it. But very soon, this will be the new norm in the positive, I believe. And I believe that's why we have to get involved in this too, to shift this to the quantum financial system version rather than the Great Reset version. We have to take an active role in this transition to make sure that it goes the way that we want it to go. So if you're interested in joining my coaching program, you can book a free call with me in the description. And I think a couple people may have posted it in the chat, consciouscrypto.info. You can book a free consultation call with me and we'll go over your goals, your experience level, all that kind of stuff. We'll see if my coaching program is a good fit for you. And if it is, we'll get you all signed up and integrated into this new financial system. Hey, what's up, Jadu Chai? Good to see you, man. Jermaine. Okay, Rob says, what do you think about purchasing your domain names with the new web for your wallet, email, and stuff? So the majority of that stuff right now is on the Ethereum infrastructure. So I would say this is going to come to the part of these digital assets that we want, that we're talking about with the quantum financial reset versus the Great Reset. But right now, a lot of that is feeding into the Great Reset stuff. So I'm personally waiting on like the web domain stuff until I see that come to like XRP and the ecosystems around XRP, because including NFTs as well, most of this stuff is on Ethereum right now. But I believe there will be a point which there is a great awakening to that around all this ETHgate stuff, all the corruption at the SEC and with the government and everything going on with that. I believe that there will be a shift over to XRP in particular and the ecosystems that are surrounding that. And at that point is when I'm going to be more kind of invested in building out infrastructure, like domain wise, on that platform. Yeah, Earthworth says Cosmos IBC, which people call the Internet of Blockchains, and Cosm Wasm. So Cosmos is really cool because they're creating essentially the Internet of Blockchains, an interconnected group of separate blockchains that can all communicate and be integrated with each other. And this is one of the main reasons why I'm so bullish on Corium, which is kind of a split off from the groups that are working with XRP in a way. So Corium is created by the team who made Sologenic, which is built on XRP, which is bringing tokenized stocks, NFTs, a decentralized NFT marketplace, a decentralized exchange, and one where we're going to be able to, okay, so let's talk about Solo real quick, and then we'll talk about Corium. So Solo, like I said, being built on XRP is really awesome because it's a fully decentralized experience, as much as we can get right now, that is going to be bringing all of this new architecture to XRP so that XRP can focus on being the Ferrari that it is for cross-border payments and instant settlements. And so Solo will be bringing these tokenized stocks. It's going to bring up the opportunity for people like us to invest in stocks without having to go through brokers and, financial institutions and all this stuff. We're going to have the ability to bring liquidity to the platform and create passive income by staking our liquidity on Sologenic, which is one of the main differences between, say, a decentralized exchange and a centralized exchange. On a centralized exchange, like on Uphold, Coinbase, Crypto.com, any of these ones, Binance, when we buy crypto from them, we're buying it from their private reserves. And not only that, but they're making a buck on that with their fees. So we're buying it from them, they're making a profit, and then they're making fees on that too. On a decentralized exchange, there's no company that's for profit at the center receiving those fees or that you're buying from. On a decentralized exchange like Sologenic, you're buying from the other users of the exchange. So for instance, I'll go and I'll make a listing to sell some XRP on there, and someone else, when they come and they buy XRP, they're buying it from me. So they're not buying it from Sologenic as a group or a company, whereas that's the case with Binance and Coinbase and all these other ones. So what we're moving towards is a fully decentralized exchange space instead of a centralized one. And the centralized exchanges are also a big part of the problem with the whole digital asset space right now, because they're basically banks 2.0. They're basically just the new face of what banks are becoming. And that's where we saw in Canada with the trucker rally too. Not only were they getting their banks and their PayPals and their Venmo shut down, but the centralized crypto exchanges were being forced by the government to shut down people's accounts. That's why you want to keep your stuff on a private wallet. And when you're using these decentralized exchanges, you're accessing them from a private wallet. And this is a key thing for sovereignty, is that the government can't come to Sologenic and say, hey, prevent this, shut down their account, freeze their funds, because it's on your private wallet, and they just don't have the ability to do that. So one of the other things that's cool about Solo is they're going to be introducing their own like Visa MasterCard kind of thing, just like we see on Crypto.com, Uphold, Coinbase. But it's going to be a decentralized experience. So you'll be able to spend your crypto directly from your crypto wallet instead of having to hold it on the exchange, which is, kind of sketchy because they can freeze your funds. So like right now, I use the Uphold card, and I basically treat it as a checkings account where I send my XRP to my Uphold when I want to spend it, and only really the amounts that I want to spend. But I don't store large amounts on there because that's where it gets sketchy. When Sologenic unveils their cards and when we're able to use these, it's going to be next level sovereignty, because it'll be exactly what we want with our financial sovereignty, where we get to keep our funds on our private wallets and spend them directly from our private wallets anywhere that would take a Visa or MasterCard. So this is where we don't even have to wait for the full adoption of being able to spend our crypto with, say, our private wallet at the store, which I believe that'll be coming, and we'll get rid of Visa, MasterCard probably eventually. Maybe they'll stick around in one form or another. But right now, we're kind of reliant on Visa, MasterCard as the payment processing systems for the majority of the places that we're buying stuff. So to be able to do that, to be able to spend it from your private wallet, have that max security, max sovereignty, that's what we want. That's the next step of this financial experience. And then, we're going to keep making further steps towards sovereignty in this space as well. Jermaine, I've been good, man. Thank you for asking. I've been working on healing up my neck from this, auto accident that Alexis and I got in back in St. Louis, from the event. So been healing up, and I've been having some good progress in the past couple weeks in particular. So I'm very grateful for that. I've been having a larger appreciation and activation of my body, and gratitude for my body, and just like being young and being able to use it. And when you have things like whiplash or like physical things happen, I think it's natural you get this greater appreciation. So it's been a big part of my life lately, and things are going pretty good. I'm seeing this, these shifts continue to happen every day, and part of the reason I'm so passionate about this digital asset space and cryptocurrency on the positive side, on the quantum financial side, is that I see it as such a beacon of hope and light for people that a lot of people are struggling to see right now. A lot of the people that are aware of all the corruption in the world, it's so easy to get caught up in it, and it's so easy to make that all that you can see. And for me, that's kind of where I was before I was awakened to this digital asset sovereignty space and this new financial economy. I was pretty disillusioned about where things were going to go. And this has given me this new beacon of hope and light and sense of prosperity for the future for all of us. And it's one of the things that I want to share with people in my content and stuff, is that I really believe this quantum financial reset, as we're calling it, is going to be a major catalyst for light workers to create what we want to see on the planet, to create the new world that is already blooming and emerging right now. And it's honestly happening really fast in so many different areas because it's coming through in so many different areas. I picture it like a sphere. I actually had a vision like this a couple years ago of like a sphere that had all this kind of crust and gunk on it, and there's bits of light. Like if you picture a sun or a star had artificial crust and gunk all over it, but it's like it's shining through, and there's some light coming out here, and all of a sudden there's a new beam of light coming out here, and there's a new one coming out down here. And it's literally like the planet right now. It's like these old world structures, these old world paradigms that have kept people asleep and imprisoned and you know, pineal essentially crusted in. It's all breaking free. And I'm seeing it on so many different levels, not just the financial, but on so many different awakening levels. And I've been called in particular to working with this side of things at this moment because, like I said, I feel like it's one of the major catalysts that will allow people who want to change the world for the better, who are service to others, who are service to the planet and humanity and to our collective ascension and our awakening. It's going to allow us to create the change that we want to see, that so many people have been just waiting for. And that's been kind of a big manifestation that people have been, I think, manifesting within itself, as the waiting. When we're so focused on waiting, when we're like, oh, when's this next post from this person coming? When is so-and-so gonna, you know, make the arrests? When is this gonna happen? It keeps us in this limbo of never actually getting to the place we want to be because we're externalizing that entire experience into other people and other groups, and we disempower ourselves when we give all that power and influence to another group, even if they are good, right? It's still prolonging, to me, that experience. And so I really believe that this is going to allow us, this financial reset, this restructuring is going to be the biggest financial and energetic like reset in terms of giving massive amounts of empowerment back to the people so that we can be the ones that enact what we've been waiting for so long. We're the ones we've been waiting for is a shirt that we have. So I really believe it's going to be a major catalyst for this. And I think that when that happens, when this comes more fully into the consciousness of the collective, it's going to create a major shift. And even within itself, that can be kind of a distortion of, like, you know, what I talk about with this flip of the switch and turning on the plumbing that's been being built. Like, even that's a sense of waiting, right? Because we're waiting for this money to come in. And so that's where I've had to take a step back too and be like, okay, I don't want to be just waiting in any sense. I need to be like doing more every day to create the reality I want to see in both my personal life and in the world. And so that's where what I've gotten is one of the most important things right now is talking about the awareness of this and the awareness of the infrastructure that's being built behind the scenes and the power that it's going to give to us and how we can take advantage of this transfer of wealth that I believe is inevitable, and it's just a matter of time. But at the same time, we don't want to just wait for it. So we want to do things every day. So that's where I'm, you know, working on myself. I'm working on my mind, body, and spirit. I'm getting healthier every day. I'm getting more physically fit every day. I'm getting more mentally fit every day. I'm growing closer to God every day. And when you're doing that, you're not just waiting. You are becoming more close to the Creator and putting the consciousness out there that we want to see on a global level. So I think there's a certain degree of like the waiting that's okay when it's surrender to the universe and it's complete detachment kind of waiting, where it's like, doesn't matter when these world events happen, it doesn't matter when the finances happen, it doesn't matter when disclosure happens. It's about us and our personal journeys and creating that within so it happens on the external. So while we wait for the external, we're not actually waiting, we're working on ourselves and we're creating that change that we want to see in the collective within ourselves first. And the more that we do that, the more that it will be reflected in the collective consciousness and in the world around us. So yeah, exciting times for sure. Oh yeah, Corium. Yeah, I totally got on a tangent there. Thank you, Limonella. So with Corium, let's go back to that. So the Sologenic platform, like we said, is going to be bringing all this other stuff to XRP that maybe we don't need natively on XRP, like the decentralized NFT marketplace, the ability to do liquidity pools, which I think is going to be major. Liquidity pools are another mechanism that we can engage in a decentralized platform and be the ones who reap the rewards of it. So in a liquidity pool on a decentralized exchange, you're able to contribute money to the liquidity of the platform that people are buying and selling from. So you basically take some of your funds and you put them on the network for people to buy, sell, and trade, and then we get a reward from that. And if you follow Mr. Pool, or if you've heard me talk about Mr. Pool, I'm not going to explain it in depth right now, but Mr. Pool has said several times that when the pools of liquidity open up, this will be a game changer on planet Earth. This is going to bring massive amounts of abundance and sovereignty to the people, because I personally think it's going to be the true form of the universal basic income. So instead of a UBI that's coming from the government, it's going to be a universal basic income that comes from us, and us engaging in the decentralized communal economy. And the more that we're engaged in that decentralized communal economy that is servicing the collective, the more that we will benefit from it. So it's a direct form of how our service to the collective is feeding us back. And this is more of the divine nature of what I feel like economy is supposed to be. Whereas a government-based UBI would be like their top-down pyramid. Hey, we're going to give you a check every month, but you're going to have to adhere to these and these rules, and you're signing your soul away, basically. So we want a type of universal basic income that's coming from our own service and engagement in the collective consciousness. And this is what these liquidity pools are going to do. It's going to be the tangible form of that. And so Sologenic will be bringing liquidity pools very soon to the XRP ledger, which will be massive, and it'll be at that point that we can make direct passive income off of our XRP as well. So the other cool thing about Sologenic in terms of Corium is that right now there's an amazing passive income opportunity in just holding the Sologenic token. And this is one of the main ones that we talk about in my coaching program, that I can show you fully how to set up and how to engage and receive your passive income from this system. And so basically by holding the Solo token, we're getting monthly airdrops of the core token for the Corium network. And this is a network, this is another blockchain that's made by the same people that are making Solo. They are funded by Ripple, they are backed by Ripple. David Schwartz has expressed essentially his approval of them. So they are not just some random group. This is like directly working with Ripple and XRP. And so by holding Solo every month, we're getting free Corium every month. So that's just free money by holding money. And this is one of the beauties of the crypto space right now, is there's so many opportunities in terms of passive income, not just on yield tokens, but on these airdrops where you hold one thing and this new project is giving you free token to basically get it out there. And so the Corium token, the Corium blockchain, I should say, is a completely user-ran, community-based blockchain. So to start, they had no IPO or ICO, which is initial public offering, initial coin offering. This is when a blockchain company sells to their private investors, much like a stock, stocks in a company would. They sell to private investors at a cheaper price before going public. They did not do that. They completely are airdropping the entire supply of the core token to the community. So to Solo holders, and then starting next year to core holders. So we get basically a double passive income opportunity by engaging this ecosystem. One, by holding Solo right now and getting free Corium for the rest of the year. And then starting 2023, that Corium that you hold will be making you more Corium every month. So it'll go from holding Solo to get core to holding core to get more core, when the Corium blockchain goes fully live in 2023. And from like a more intuitive esoteric perspective, I've gotten so many synchronicities about Corium, in much like the way that I was getting them around XRP when I first started getting exposed to this. So if that means anything to you guys, to me, it's like I literally would ask the universe, give me a sign about Corium. And then I'd see like core on a giant truck drive by. And then I'd see another building that said core within like 5 minutes. And it was just like back to back to back. And still, like every day I'm hearing it, and I'm getting the signs from the universe. This is going to be big. And so they're pitching this as kind of like the do-it-all community blockchain, where it's going to be completely governed by the people. There's going to be passive income opportunity through it. It is right now being pitched as the fastest blockchain in the world, so apparently even faster than XRP. It doesn't seek to replace or compete against XRP, because again, remember, they're being funded by Ripple, but it's going to bring a lot of the infrastructure that people want on XRP to that ecosystem. So I think it's going to be really massive. Limonella says, can you explain what a layer 1 blockchain is? So layer 1 is like, my understanding is it's the base. So you can have blockchains that are built on other blockchains. So for instance, Shiba coin that everyone was into was built on the Ethereum network. Sologenic is built on the XRP network, the XRP ledger. So Corium is going to be a layer 1, meaning a base level, brand new blockchain that other blockchains and other applications will be built around. And that's why they're calling it Corium, because it's supposed to be the core infrastructure, layer 1, base level blockchain that all the other blockchains to come can be built on and around to create this epic ecosystem. And so it also ties in with Cosmos and the Internet of Blockchains, because the smart contract mechanism that Corium uses is called Cosm Wasm, which is from the Cosmos ecosystem, and it will allow smart contract integration and communication between the Cosmos Internet of Blockchains ecosystem and the Corium ecosystem, and then also the XRP ecosystem. And so this is where I think we'll get a few kind of core ecosystems in this quantum financial system that are based around different things. So we'll have the financial settlements one, which will be like XRP and Sologenic and stocks and all that. We'll have Corium as being like the more user-based, user-governed, interacted space for smart contracts, and basically replacing what Ethereum does. Then we'll have, probably the governance blockchains that are for governance and, government, elections and things like that. And then we'll probably, have the privacy blockchains, which are particularly for complete privacy, not seeing your transactions, things not being public. That I'm unsure of if that will make it in the long run, because one, regulations, I don't know if they're going to allow the privacy coins totally, but two, moving to this place of full transparency in the fourth density, full, awareness and integration of all, there probably won't and shouldn't be privacy coins in that sense, because everything should be public, everything should be visible. And, even though that kind of can play into the Great Reset timeline if done incorrectly, where if the government has control over everyone and they can see everything and they have control, but their stuff is private, that's what we don't want. So we want everything to be public and governed and controlled by everyone, to where the government is held just as responsible for their transactions and everything is public, just like we would be. So hopefully that answers the question. Pluroma says, eco, life, nomi. Economy, economy, eco-life, nomi. System of laws and governing. So a life of system and laws and governing. That's really cool. I like that. I'm going to have to use that. What's up, LSD? Good to see you. Not the drug, but the person in the chat. Tanner the Great, what's up? He says, the Savior Complex program really does set people and has set me back in the past, up to us to realize, remember. Yep. And I totally think that there are, I'm not saying that there aren't influential figures out there that, will have a huge catalyst in the way that things go on the planet. But I also really believe that we are not supposed to completely give our power away to these people, even if they're good, right? We don't want to be passive and give away our personal responsibility, because at the end of the day, we're all one being, we're all one consciousness at the core of it. And we need to take just as much responsibility as any public figure out there on the public stage that is doing, what they're doing. If you guys wouldn't mind hitting the like button and sharing this where you can on social media, Telegram, Twitter, Instagram, wherever, that would really help me out. Get past the shadow banning, get the algorithm back on here. Hit subscribe if you aren't already. So let's see, where can we go from here? The other kind of thing I think about, and I think I might have touched on this last time too, the Great Reset versus the Quantum Financial Reset, is they may look like the same thing at first. They may actually play out as a single event that could be interpreted and energetically both timelines occurring at once. And that's kind of a paradox, but I think that's part of what we're supposed to accept in this new paradigm, that paradoxes are very real and we can't logically explain away everything. So I think that there might be an event that happens that is interpreted by the masses as being, at least for the awake masses, as being the Great Reset. But for those that know, it will also be the Quantum Financial Reset. And it will be about the way that we interpret it and work with it that decides which timeline we're ultimately on. So if you, for instance, are stuck in these old financial patterns, if you're stuck in the money is evil, we must get rid of all money, all digital currency is evil, but you're still using your bank, you're still writing checks, you're still doing all this, well, you're directly feeding the old system. And I think that you'll end up seeing the Great Reset timeline way more prevalent if you're stuck in that system and you're still using cash notes that have the all-seeing eye on them, and it's directly feeding that. Whereas if you learn the new systems that are for the people, that are taking a step away from the pyramid infrastructure and moving towards more of the God mind consciousness in terms of the digital currency, and one that resembles more of what we would see in the Akashic records, this is going to create a different paradigm of reality. And I think we could see both happen at the same time, where a lot of people are doing really well in the new decentralized, run by the people, for the people systems. And meanwhile, there's going to be a group of other people that are still getting played by the old world financial systems because they're too afraid to move over here, most likely. They don't have the confidence, they don't have the trust in themselves and in God to do something that might feel a little bit scary, which is moving away from the old financial system. But that fear is what's going to hold them in that old paradigm that they're afraid of. And they're going to actually feed into that by not engaging in the God consciousness paradigm. So there will be big challenges, I think, for many people with fear and overcoming that. But eventually we will move to this place where everyone is over here and where it's known, because this is going to continue to fizzle and die out and not be fed its source of nutrition anymore as more and more people awaken to that. Especially as people see just, for instance, all the money that's being made over here, and that people are living the lives that everyone should be access to living, everyone should be entitled to as stewards of Earth. And over here, it's going to be the vampiric, pyramid sucking, like all that energy. And again, I think that event could play out as the same thing on a physical level at first, and then it'll be about where the people shift their consciousness and their awareness and what they're doing with it, how they're engaging in the new system, that determines where they personally go and where they engage. So I think it's really important right now to educate yourself on this stuff and become aware of which systems are making things more conscious and more for the people and giving back to the people, and doing a combination of left-brained research and logical research and seeing what's happening, along with the right-brained intuitive feeling into it, feeling what feels right, and bringing that data from both of those and finding a mutual truth between the data and the intuition. And to me, everyone that I've taught to do this in my coaching program, everybody that is also working in the spheres of influence is doing that and coming to the same conclusions. I'm not seeing people coming to opposite conclusions when they're doing this in this space. It's like once you tap into it with both the research and the intuition, it's pretty obvious where the truth lies in that realm. So yeah, I think it's going to be good though. I really feel like it gives me so much hope that I didn't have a few years ago. And this plays into disclosure and everything else too. Disclosure of all the hidden truths of humanity. Once people like us have so much more of an influence and are not censored and are allowed to speak freely, we will be the majority. We already are the majority. It's just it doesn't look like it because of the way things are, fed to us online and everything. But the majority is already awake, I really believe. And it's going to directly play into all the other aspects of disclosure that, like me and so many others here have been talking about and engaging with for so many years, including ET disclosure and contact and disclosure of our ancient past and the things that, like, to me are the real value here, right? Like this financial stuff that I've been taking more of a focus on lately is, to me, what's important to focus on for me right now because of the importance of this transition. But post-transition, the things that I used to talk about more prevalently that I would, get banned for and stuff, that is the meat, the substance, like the core of what I feel like we're really meant to be doing here. And the financial stuff is like the catalyst that will allow that to come forward more. Okay, Limonella says, she has a good question here. She says, I do wonder why the banking cabal will allow us to be sovereign and free. It's the last thing they want. And that, yeah, so that's a great question. Let's talk about that. And I want to bring into this the fact that Ripple is a part of the World Economic Forum, because that is a major thing that a lot of people, very rightfully so, are questioning about. And I think it's very important to look deeper into this. So Ripple, the company that didn't create XRP, but that essentially manages the majority of XRP on a physical level, like they have half the supply, even though they don't have control over the network. They are a member of the World Economic Forum. And that can be pretty weird when you first look at that. You're like, oh, that's not, the first thing is, I don't want to support that. However, this is where I've, between the research and the intuition, I've dove into this for a while now, like over a year and a half. This is something I've been thinking about and researching and finding clarity from my higher self. And what I've come to the conclusion of is that this is how they are fighting the war. It is a Trojan horse into the old economic system. So just like with Trump, they didn't have Trump run as an independent. Why? Why did Trump not run as an independent? Why did he not create a third party and run as a third party? It was strategy. It was the art of war. They had him run under one of the two existing corrupt parties, because I believe what they realized was that the art of war, the better strategy, was to infiltrate rather than directly attack. So almost using the enemy's strategy against them. Infiltration over invasion, right? We've heard that before. Infiltration over invasion. And so what they did is they infiltrated the Republican Party. They took it over. The Republican Party was super corrupt. It wasn't like they were the good ones and the Democrats were the bad ones. They were both wings of the same bird for as long as they've been around. But what they did is they took control over it so that they could have that asset to be able to better achieve the art of war. And I believe the same thing is occurring in the financial system with Ripple and XRP and their infiltration into the World Economic Forum. So as I said, kind of go back to Bitcoin and Ethereum. Bitcoin and Ethereum are, what's up, Jesus? Good to see you, Jeff. Bitcoin and Ethereum are the most heavily invested digital assets by the banking cartel, okay? So a lot of people will call, a lot of the Bitcoin and Ethereum people will call XRP the banker's coin because of this World Economic Forum, and that they're pitching it as a use case to the banks for cross-border settlement. But the banks themselves, when you look at what they're actually investing in, and like BlackRock, they're not investing in XRP. They're investing in Bitcoin and Ethereum. So why? Why is Ripple working with the World Economic Forum and pitching this stuff to banks while the banks are actually on the back end working with Bitcoin and Ethereum? To me, it's like the same thing that happened with Trump, where when he was elected president, he went around to all the major nations. Remember that? Right after he was elected, he went to Israel, he went to Saudi Arabia, he went to like the UAE, he went to Rome, he went to all these places, Brazil, India, and signed who knows what, some kind of deals, treaties, whatever, right? There was definitely stuff going on there. They didn't all want that, right? Rome, the Pope, he didn't look happy about it, right? Remember that picture where Trump was standing next to the Pope and the Pope just looked like he was dying? They, I think, were forced to sign deals because it was the only way they could survive longer, in a way. There were deals that were made. And I believe the same exact thing is happening with XRP and with Ripple, where they are going to all these world groups. And to me, if I were to paraphrase what they're probably telling them, is something along the lines of, look, this technology is here. It's inevitable. It is going to give the sovereignty and the power back to the people. And you can go the banks can go keep playing your old game, your old central banking game, the SWIFT system, all this stuff. But it's not going to compete with what we've got. Our technology is inevitable. It is for the people. It is of God, and God will win. So you can either choose to make a deal and come over and be a part of this system, be a part of RippleNet, be a part of the new banking infrastructure as it's being pitched, or you can burn and die out and try to keep playing your banking game, but it's not going to go very well for you. And I think the majority of these groups saw the truth in that and were like, okay, we would rather, our bank basically we would rather keep trying to play our game, but we're going to do it in God's system instead of in the old financial satanic system. Super paraphrasing this, but this is what I feel they were doing. And so it's basically a Trojan horse. I see Ripple being in the World Economic Forum and pitching XRP to all these banks as the Trojan horse. It's an inevitable technology. This is a technology that was pitched by David Schwartz in the 90s, way before digital assets were ever a thing. I believe it was seeded from the stars. Like, multiple channelers and intuitives have verified that this has been seeded here from other planets, and that this is an interplanetary model of economics. So I do believe it was a Trojan horse and is a Trojan horse, and that's why we're seeing, the global financial powers kind of come over to this. But on the back end, in the United States, corporation, that's kind of like the last stronghold for these old systems. And I think that that's why we're seeing the SEC and all these other agencies going after Ripple and XRP, but giving a free pass to Bitcoin and Ethereum at the same time, because they're trying, there's factions of these groups that have a hope that they're going to be able to essentially escape God's plan, is the way that I see it. And they're going to do anything they can to do that. But the majority of them have already signed deals and are coming over to that golden timeline. So again, if you guys want coaching in this and you want to learn how to use XRP and make transfers and keep your money stored sovereignly on a private wallet, how to make transfers to the wallet, how to make payments, especially if you're a business that wants to learn how to take crypto payments. That's one of the things that I'm moving towards teaching people on. And then passive income as well. The passive income from this stuff is going to keep growing. And basically you want to learn how to use these systems now, because they're growing so fast. And it's kind of like the new internet. It really is the new internet, in terms of everything in your life will be based around these systems in a couple years. Just like everything right now is based around the internet, whether we like it or not. You have to basically have a Facebook page or an Instagram or some kind of social media to run a business or to do your work or keep up with your friends or whatever. And in the same respect, but in a more positive way, I think that this is going to be the backbone of how everything runs in our society in just a few short years. So basically you want to take advantage of it now, because it is going to be the biggest wealth transfer in history. And you can wait until it's fully implemented and then, enjoy the new financial system. But if you want to take advantage of the actual transfer of wealth, you have to get involved now, because that transfer will happen to the people that are engaged now and early as an investment opportunity. And, I think like Nasara, Jasara, all that stuff plays into this too. I don't know if those things will ever actually happen, to be honest. Like I don't feel that people will be given millions of dollars each for a Nasara, Jasara, or whatever. It doesn't make sense to me, because then a gallon of gas would be worth $1,000. I do think that there will be a financial redistribution, but it's not going to be everyone getting $1 million or millions of dollars for free. And I know a bunch of people that are honestly just sitting around waiting for Nasara, Jasara, and it kills me, because they're like missing out on this amazing opportunity because they think that they're going to be getting all this gold. It's not going to happen, because it's going to be way too much for every individual. Everything will go up in price. There will be no, like, the relativity for, how much money people will be getting for how much they're spending on things will stay the same. So what I think will happen instead is that if there really are these stolen assets, which I do believe there are, that have to be distributed in one form or another, they're going to go into these liquidity pools. They're going to go into these decentralized systems that will reward the people engaging with the new global economy in the light. So it's not going to be a direct, you get, $1 million each. It'll be, they'll probably be put into these rewards pools and these distribution pools for people engaging in it. And then as well, like, if there was direct money transferred to people, it's going to happen through these assets like XRP, because it's way more efficient and effective and for the people to send that much money in this form than it would be to write everyone an archaic check from like Biden, right? The check, that whole banking system is flawed, it's broken. And so if there is going to be a redistribution of millions of dollars or whatever, that's how it's going to happen. It's going to happen on these new blockchain systems. So, but really, I think the transfer of wealth is going to be more in the direct investment in these systems, like in buying XRP before the switch is flipped and this liquidity is flooded on the world economic stage. And we see the price of XRP do crazy things. And some of that stolen money may even go directly into investing in these assets to raise the price for the people who have been guided to this space, to reward them more on a divine level from like God's plan. So that's where I see everything going. But I would love to hear your thoughts on that as well. And again, if you want to learn more about this stuff, you can book a free call with me below. If you're interested in joining my coaching program, I have a link there. It's a free consultation call, so we'll talk about if your goals are a good fit for what I'm teaching. If they're not, I'll try to send you somewhere more particular for what your goals are. Like, for instance, I don't really teach day trading because that's not my gig. I'm not a trader. I'm like the long-term investor, the long-term vision, and the passive income along the way. But if you wanted to learn day trading as a thing, like I have a friend that does that and I could refer you to him. But if your goals are a good fit for what the program I have is, then we'll get you all fit and signed up for the program. And we do these weekly calls, which are really awesome, which are where the community of people that are in the program, the other students, we all come together. We, of course, go over any questions about the program. It gives you that chance to talk to me about this stuff one-on-one over a Zoom call. And the people that are in the program are so conscious and like-minded. It really is that law of attraction that like energy attracts like energy. And everyone that is a student or has been a student in the program right now is aware of all the things that like we talk about on this channel, which I love because there's no like having to explain, you know, the other kind of aspects of what's going on in the world and the awakening and all that. Everyone is already tuned into that. We're on the same vibe, the same level, and we're all planning on how to use this wealth for the future. And everyone that I've talked to has got like a specific plan on how they're going to change the world for the better using this wealth. And I think that that's why God's going to reward the people that are doing that, because if you have a vision, I mean, in general, that's how you manifest, right? You have a vision and then you make steps toward achieving that vision. And I think in the same sense, there's all these thousands of people now that hold XRP and these other digital assets that have visions of how they're going to change the world for the better, whether it's creating a school, creating sanctuaries, creating healthy foods, creating like healthy food, you know, areas, restaurants, things like that. There's so many different niches that people are involved in their particular focus and their creative passions, that this is going to add fuel to that fire and create this ever-glowing flame that will be able to feed the collective and feed the growth of the planet. And that's one of the things that excites me the most. And seeing that with like my students, for instance, seeing what everyone's focused on and then creating the network around that, and knowing that we are gonna, you know, have these connections moving forward. We're seeding that all now, and when this grows more, sorry, there's like mosquitoes everywhere. When this grows, we're gonna keep those connections, and they're only gonna grow and expand even more, and it's really beautiful to see. Limonella says, what is your thoughts on the price action of XRP? I think, you know, what we're waiting for is this flip of the switch, this turning on of the liquidity, which is going to be related to the settlement in the SEC case, I think, in the more short term. But we don't know when that's going to happen. So that'll be the ultimate price action we're waiting for. Everything until then is all speculative. It's all going to be based on the retail speculations and investments. But the real price action will occur when that flip of the switch occurs. And this is something that Brad and David have both talked about directly too. They've said flip of the switch. So it's not just like a term in our communities. It's something they actually refer to. So when that happens and this global liquidity hub is fully engaged, that'll be when we see major price action. Until then, in the short term, we don't really know. There's a lot of indicators that XRP is about to go on another little like bull run, that it's hit kind of its retracement figures, and in the chart analysis sense, it's looking really good. So it kind of all depends what happens on the world level and the world stage and with everything else, and you know, the collapse of the old economies and those kind of things too. So my strategy through this is the long-term vision. I'm dollar cost averaging, just buying a little bit, you know, every week or however amount of time, and not really focusing too much on the price, but just taking advantage of the low prices, because I do think that we might have hit the bottom. It's possible that we're going to go lower. You never know. But I feel like regardless, these are amazing times to accumulate in. And just a couple months ago, people were looking at when it was this price and going, man, I wish I bought XRP when it was 30, 40 cents back when it was like $1.80. So yeah, I think I'm feeling good about it, and I'm just keep chugging every day, and holding that detachment too with everything, and not, even though I want the price to go up, not like holding that as like, oh, I'm not going to be happy or fulfilled until the price goes up. I'm making every day what I want it to be in this space, and growing and learning and taking advantage of this time, because when it does go, that'll be great. But it's like the major point of opportunity, which is now, will not be here anymore. And so a lot of people will look back to these times and go, man, I wish I was educating myself more. Man, I wish I had taken a course. I wish I had invested more, or whatever. I really do believe that right now is the time that the next generation of millionaires is being seeded, and billionaires too. Jaff says it's awesome. Conscious community calls. Love it. Jaff is in the coaching program. All right. I think that's it for this transmission, this download. Thanks for hanging out, guys. Again, click the link in the bio if you want to book a free call with me. We'll get on a Zoom call. We'll talk about any questions you have related to the program, if it's a good fit, and get you all signed up. And then you can join our next group call this next week. And I will try to be back on here next Saturday, maybe sooner. My neck's doing a lot better, so I'm feeling better doing the lives, whereas like a week or two ago, it was really hard for me to even sit for this long with the whiplash that I'm having. So I have tape on me. But yeah, I'm glad that I was able to sit this long this time, and last Tuesday too, and I did the live. So maybe I'll jump on another live this next week. If you guys have any particular topics that you want me to hit in future videos, let me know. Or in like shorts, I might be doing more like small Instagram videos to cover these topics. Also, make sure you join the Telegram group. You can join the Telegram group, the free one, in my bio down there, and follow me on Instagram and Twitter. Hit like, hit subscribe, support the channel, share this video if you can, and much love to you all. I hope you found some value out of this, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out, much love.